Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. Welcome to another session of Schweiger Live. Our guest today is Delfeayo Marsalis.
All right.
Are you in New Orleans today? Sheltering in place there?
I am, yes. I'm here and glad to be in the home. This home was built in the 1890s. So
Wow.
it's really old school and you can see the wine rack in the back. I had an uncle named Delfeayo and he was a craftsman and he helped me with that. He was actually a wood refinisher. He and Mr. Calvin made that rack. In fact, he made all of the cabinets. He was 70 years old.
So are you in the greater New Orleans area then?
Oh yeah, I'm uptown. That's right. Uptown's the higher ground. I kind of got lucked up. I didn't think about it in those terms when I got this, but it's so we're kind of out of the flood zone, so that helps.
Yeah, I had the privilege to get to play with a band in New Orleans back in 2018, and there's a lot of beautiful old homes there, so I can only imagine what a special place that is.
Yeah, it's it's very unique. We've got a lot of not only the African and the Caribbean influences, but the Spanish and the French, and New Orleans is really the original melting pot. It's really what America was supposed to represent, and we still kind of keep a lot of the different cultures and a lot of the different flavors. That's why everybody loves New Orleans, because no matter who you are, where you're from, or what your heritage is, you can find some of yourself here in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Yes,
great.
Sir.
Well, for those of you who are not familiar, Delfeayo is an amazing trombone player. Well,
chops rough, boy. I had the 19 for a couple of weeks. I was down for about a month, so I'm trying to. My first time playing in public in a couple of months, so wish me luck.
Well, would you be willing to kick off the show playing something short for the audience?
Yeah, let me get the horn. Hold on a second.
Okay, very good. And for those of you watching either on Facebook or on Zoom, feel free to, any questions or comments you have in Zoom, make sure it's to all panelists and attendees. And I'm also watching the comment field. And if you have these, if you want to enjoy with us later on, Delfeayo and I are going to be enjoying the 2019 Sauvignon Blanc from Schweiger Vineyards, just released this week, along with our 2016 Cabernet Franc. So feel free to get those out and get ready to enjoy with us. Thank you. Very nice.
That's a little bit of
now we need the canned applause. I have to ask you, I know a lot of brass players. In fact, my daughter's a trombone player. I have lots of friends who are bone players. Okay. But and go figure. My wife's a clarinet player. I'm a sax player. And somehow there's a genetic deficiency. We wound up breeding a trumpet player and a trombone player.
You need somebody to kind of, the trumpet role is to kind of, lead the way and show people what's happening. And the trombone, of course, is just going to be cool. So you said it's your daughter. I know she's totally cool and laid back.
Oh yeah. But I was playing for the kids your cover of I was playing for the kids your cover of Sesame Street.
Okay.
And it just blew my mind because just hearing all your mute work. And I was trying to visualize keeping a stable grip on the horn while working the slide and doing all that mute work.
Right. Well, you know, so there was a great trombonist named Al Gray. And Al Gray, I was fortunate to not only know him, but to play one of my first professional gig outside of New Orleans was with Al Gray. And he was really old school. And I was telling a story that he's from Philadelphia. In fact, the gig was in Philly. It was at a school. So he says, Marsalis. You know, he had known, of course, Branford and Winton by that point. And I was at Berkeley College. And he says, we're delighted to have you, young Marsalis. We want to make sure you're comfortable. Well, what songs would you like to play? And, you know, I'd say, well, you know, we play some blues. And I might have had So What. I had like maybe 3 or 4 songs. And he said, well, you sure that's it? I mean, you know, whatever you wanted. I named my tunes, and he said, all right, no problem. So we get up, we start off with the blues. And then the second song, he says, we'd like to feature young Marsalis right now. And here's one, the good old favorite, Moonlight in Vermont, in A flat. So, Moonlight in A flat. But you know, it was a certain thing, like that was the old school way. The old school way was to say, you know, you're gonna earn it. Like if you're gonna come out here, but we're not just gonna make you, we're gonna pretend like we want you to feel like you're comfortable. But so anyway, Al Gray was such a great mute. He was one of the last, they call him the last of the great plungers, you know, in the history of music. And it's really just a plunger mute, just like what you would use to plunge. And there's Tricky Sam Nanton and Lawrence Brown, and you know, Al Gray was the last of the guys that really was phenomenal, and he could really talk. Like when you know the old Charlie Brown, the parents, that's a trombone with a plunger. So I never really could get the hang of that. That's really tough because you have to hold the horn a certain way. So what I use is called a wah-wah mute. And the wah-wah mute, wait, do I have my wah-wah? Hold on. The wah-wah mute went missing. Let me find the wah-wah.
For those of you just tuning in, Delfeayo Marsalis and the wah-wah mute.
Is your wah-wah mute, and also called the bubble mute. So there's 2 types of wah-wah mute, but this is a bubble mute. And I like the sound of it because the other mutes, the straight wah-wah mute is really mellow sounding, but I like to have a little edge to the sound. And Sesame Street, it actually, we recorded it started off kind of as a misunderstanding. And that was because the bassist, John Clayton, we were doing a week with my dad, John Clayton, and Marvin Smitty Smith. And this was in Los Angeles. And I was doing a warm-up exercise. And John Clayton mistook that for Sesame Street. So as I'm doing these, ba da 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 da, he starts boom ding ding, boom ding ding. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? He's like, Sesame Street, right? And I'm like, well, no, but we could play it. And it's in E. So, you know, not the great trombone, we would never thought to do that in E. But it's in E, and that's how it came about. And we decided, in fact, we were recording the next week, and it was the last night of the gig. And I said, man, we should just record this. And it ended up being one of our favorites. And with the wah-wah, and you can hear it saying wah-wah.
Yeah. That's well, and my wife is tuning in too, and she's a primary school teacher, so Sesame Street flows through her veins. So thank you for doing that little bit of that.
And it's really killing. I didn't realize actually that it's not only a blues, but it only goes up. It stays to 12 bars, but the first time it just goes how to get to Sesame Street, and then it goes to the top. Da 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 da, and then we go to the second time. Ba da da. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Then it goes up. How to get to Sesame Street, top, and that's the top of the form. So
Yeah.
we had a good time. It's fun. It was really fun with that recording, and of course recording with my dad. You know, he knew what to do. He knew exactly what to do, and really a great spirit. And I mean, I had an idea, but I learned so much. You learn so much more when you're actually able to record with one of the real giants, just because of how they approach the music. And it's never about, you know, I'm your father and this and that. He wants to know, he was always asking, how can I help you with what your musical concept is? And at the same time, I knew that he had a specialty. So I wasn't trying to, you know, put him in a situation where it's like, yeah, Dad, check out what the young guys are doing. And we got all these strange, crazy things going on. So, you know, it really worked out. It worked out well.
He's such a generous man, and your whole family, just so many talented musicians. And I have to relate with you about the key of E. We were hosting an event, and Brian Culbertson was playing up at the winery. And, you know, I'm never going to miss an opportunity. I'm always going to have a horn nearby in case there's a chance to jam. And somebody told Brian, and he said, and so he announces to the crowd, puts me on the spot, says, all right, Andy, come on up here. So I run in my office, set up my horn, and say, and I didn't even get a chance to say, what are we doing? He says, all right, we're going to play that funky music in E. And I start, I've got my alto. Let's see. Oh, that puts me in C sharp. This will be fun.
Right.
I think that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't for saxes, because it either puts you in C sharp or F sharp.
Right. Well, at that point, you know, you could have just, you know, come on, everybody, put your hands together. Then you start clapping. You know, you got to know how to make it happen, man. You just, whatever it requires. You know?
Yeah, I should have thought of that. And I just noticed that's a pretty cool detail in your horn, the stained glass.
Right. So this is a Courtois, and it's made now by the folks at Buffet. And so you can see that's original. I don't know if do I have it right there. That's kind of the original, the artwork of the horn. This horn it's actually it's built on more of a symphonic design. So it was just brass. It was a rose bell, but the rest was brass. And I sent it up to, there's a guy named Mike Corrigan. He has BAC, he makes his own horns. But he said, he called me once and he said, man, I've got an internet show. It's called Pimp My Horn. And I want to pimp out your horn. And I said, all right. So he was asking me, he said, what are some of the things you like to do? Where do you like to play? And I said, you know, I live in a Victorian home in New Orleans, and I like to play at Trinity Church here in New Orleans. It's an Episcopal church. So he came up with the idea. He said, well, you know, the one thing that the Victorian style and the churches have in common is the stained glass. So I brought it there. He did a phenomenal job. I brought it to him on a Thursday and in the daytime, and they finished everything on Friday, and I played the gig Friday night with the horn. And I told him, I said, look, man, this kind of stuff doesn't impress me. So whatever you do, I know it was going to be stained glass. I said, whatever you do, I'm going to act like I'm surprised. So just, it's cool. I got you covered. But man, when he unveiled this, I was like, what the? But this was the first. A lot of guys now, you see with the stain, a lot of trombone players are kind of taking that, but this is the original. And if you can see the detailing. So this is the fleur-de-lis. Mm-hmm. That, of course, the symbol of the saints and the New Orleans symbol. And the blue represents the waters from Hurricane Katrina, because this was not long after that. And I'm a big Shakespeare fan, Shaq. And this is the red represents the fires that burned down the Globe Theater. If I have that right, that's the red. And then you've got the bell of the horn and the notes of redemption being blown out. And then right here, I don't know if I can get this. This is the Shaq quote. Let me try to get, oh, here it is. There.
Oh, there wow.
Have more than you know. And
that is cool.
You see it there?
Yeah.
I'm saying it wrong. Have more than Have more than you show and speak less than you know. I'm messing it up. Sorry, Shaq. There that is, but. So there we go.
Awesome. Well, you want to drink some wine?
Yeah. I got a couple of wine bottles that just came in, and how shall we begin?
Yeah, let's start with the Sauvignon Blanc.
We
Actually just bottled this last week and just released it to our club members on Tuesday of this week. So we might have some people who just received this yesterday who might be able to enjoy with us.
Okay.
But this is the only wine that we make where we're not growing the fruit ourselves. We have a longtime family friend, Bob Ubaldi, whose father had been farming this land since, well, before the turn of the last century. So we're talking late 1800s.
Wow.
And their family had never seen their name on a label. And Quilly, Bob's dad, was going to turn 100 that year. So he gave me the fruit and said, hey, would you be willing to make some wine? And we did it as a vineyard designate. So it actually, normally where it would say a state bottle, it says Ubaldi Vineyards. So first time that family's legacy, they got to see their name on a bottle of wine. And we enjoyed the fruit so much, we decided, you know what, let's just keep doing it. This is a wine. It's an amazing spring, summertime wine. We only do about 450 cases a year, and it typically sells out in about 4 to 6 months.
Okay. So how long do you said that they gave you the fruit to make it?
That first year, yes. And we split, the wine that I made from it, we split between the two families.
Okay. So how do they, you just package it up and just put it on a truck? And...
Well, so, I mean, starting with the fruit, or with the fruit. So what we do is, they're actually just a half an hour drive away from our vineyard. So we provided the labor to pick the vineyard. So we went down there with our truck and provided our own picking crew. And then brought it back up to the winery, made it at our winery. And we're too small to have our own bottling line. So when time comes to bottle it, I schedule everything and bottling truck comes up. And oversimplifying it, I hook a hose up to the truck and empty bottles go in one side and full bottles come out the other.
So inquiring minds want to know.
You bet.
Have you ever had an occasion where the wrong label went on a certain number of bottles?
You know, it's all about quality control. My wife can testify that I've had many a nightmare in the weeks leading up to bottling. My mind gets overactive when bottling comes up. The funniest thing is actually, this is the first time I had a latent bottling nightmare. Actually, the night before last, I had my bottling nightmare 8 days after the finish of bottling. And this bottling nightmare involved the wackiest of things, where we decided we were going to package Cocoa Krispies breakfast cereal on our bottling line. The strange things your brain does at night. But as for the wrong label, I have not had that happen yet. The guy who operates the truck is very diligent, and we, before we start the run, he quickly shows me the first bottle, and I'm checking that it's the right front label, the right back label. Let's see. We've had, so all the corks go in a hopper, and they clean the corks out between jobs. And there was one year where there was a cork from another winery stuck in the hopper. And fortunately, somebody saw a little bunny rabbit on the top of the cork instead of the SV logo. And they pulled it off before the capsule went on. And sure enough, it was a cork from Rabbit Ridge.
Oh, you don't want to do that.
So, and it's fun. You play games on the bottling line. Sometimes, you'll pull the classic Laverne and Shirley and put a glove on a bottle and send that down the line. One year, I took a rubber band and rubber banded my camera to the neck of the bottle and sit it down the bottling line videotaping. So we got the bottle's eye perspective of the bottling line.
That's silly. How many folks do y'all have working like in the different areas?
Well, out in the vineyard, it's my dad and I do all the management of the vineyard together. And then we have 3 full-time guys there. I'm the winemaker, and I have an assistant who unfortunately, well, fortunately for her, she got engaged and is choosing to start a family and a new life in Michigan. So yesterday was her last day. So I'm currently interviewing, trying to find a new assistant winemaker. So there's just 2 of us in the winery. Then we have 2 full-time ladies working in the office. Come bottling, we bring in 8 extra people. And this year with all the lockdown and social distancing, we decided to keep it as tight as possible. So we brought our vineyard guys in to work on the truck. My son was home from Georgia Tech because of shelter in place. His girlfriend was out here, and my wife is a school teacher, so she was teaching from home. So she was working on the line, as was our daughter. So it was the entire family working the line.
Okay, yeah. Nothing like it. You get
the Sauvignon Blanc, it's a lot of fun. It's a very crisp light. It's a high acid. It's very complementary with food. Pairs well with a lot of cuisine. I mean, Asian food obviously comes to mind, but I'm sure there's a lot of classic New Orleans dishes that would work very well with this as well.
Yeah. So if you would you characterize this as in terms of sweetness, would you say this is a sweet wine, it's a not sweet, it's a medium sweet? Like where would you put it in terms of just the sweetness of it?
Well, in terms of sweetness, there is no residual sugar. So it's not sweet, but we age it on the yeast lees, and that adds a viscosity to it. So there's mouthfeel that somebody could associate as being sweet without actually having sugar in it.
But I don't mean from a standpoint of sugar. Like I'm just trying to ascertain when you're pairing the wine with certain foods. So which foods would you say, if you said, man, this is perfect for, which would be the top 3 or 4 foods?
Wow. Well, an easy go-to would be sushi. Anything with that kind of savory, sweet soy sauce. We're probably my daughter took her Spanish AP test today online, so she got to pick. So we're probably making ramen tonight. So we're probably going to have this with the homemade ramen tonight. Okay,
so it's good with ramen. So now when you're pairing a wine, do you want to have a similar, or do you almost want something that's opposite? So if you're eating a sweet food, if you're eating like a sweet and sour pork as an example, or sweet and sour vegetables, if you're not a meat eater, do you want a wine more like this, or would you want something, different? Like in choosing wines, how do you make that determination?
The answer is yes. It's sometimes fun to have complementary notes and sometimes having contrast. This does work well with sweet and sour, but not because it's sweet, but it has a crisp acidity that cuts and kind of thins out that sweet and sour sauce. And it can help highlight and bring out more jasmine or garlic or ginger flavors, even though there's no garlic or ginger. I mean, the primary notes in this, you've got a lot of tropical, you've got a lot of citrus, particularly like grapefruit. But then there's some lemongrass to it as well.
Yeah, that's killing. And do you find that there are certain wines that work with certain preparations, like, for example, grilled food as opposed to fried food? So if you have some fried catfish as opposed to a blackened or grilled, do you ever think of it in those terms, or not really?
I've never had it addressed me that way, but now that I think about it, I would probably I'm playing with this right now, but I would think with grilled, you're not going to have as much fat to it. So I'd probably skew more towards our Chardonnay, which is a lower acidity. and save this more for the fried catfish that's going to have a little bit more fat to it, where you've got the brighter acidity to kind of help cut those fats. Because part of the fun of pairing food and wine is having the acid and the alcohol cleanse your palate between bites and make you ready to, it's like rinsing out an electrode. It's helping refresh your palate for the next bite.
Mm-hmm. So is it, if you had, for example, fried fish, fried chicken, fried pork chop across the board, you'd say if a wine works, it's going to work with any of those? Or do you have, this works really well with the fish, this will work better with the chicken, this will work well with a pork dish?
Yeah, again, part of the fun, I'll never claim to be a sommelier, but they're much better at pairings than I would be.
Okay.
But I would say that both of the white wines would work with their preparations, but I would typically stick to, if you're going with a fattier preparation like fried, I'd probably stick with a brighter, crisper acidity. Lisa Maloney actually just commented, this wine is great and would pair with so many things, but it depends on your taste. And that it is so subjective. So thank you for that comment, Lisa.
Okay. Not trying to put you on the spot, but I am.
No, it's all good. It's kind of, that's the fun of these things, is having the repartee back and forth. The very first one of these virtual tastings, I just live cast and talked about the wine and had no interaction. And 10 minutes later, I was done and was like, well, that was kind of boring.
All right, I've got some pecans. What's going to work well with pecans?
You know what? Thank you. That's probably a great segue. Let's open up that Cabernet Franc. Or try a pecan with a little Sauvignon Blanc, but I think the Cabernet Franc is really going to work well with it.
Really good pecans.
Are they sweet or are they just roasted?
They're just big. They're good, but a lot of times when you get the pecans, they're tiny. But these, and if you cook them like pecan pie, yeah, Cane River. All right. And now we're going to
2016 Cabernet Franc. Kind of matches, the label matches your walls.
That's it. That's a perfect match.
We actually, we started growing Cabernet Franc as a blender to go into dedication, which is our Bordeaux program. And by 2009, the aromas and flavors became so distinctive of the varietal, we decided to bottle it up just as a wine club feature. So this wine is typically only available to club members. Sometimes there's 10 or 15 cases left, and then we'll make those available to visitors in our tasting room. And what strikes me, this is why when you said pecans, and I promise everybody watching live, this is live, that wasn't set up, but the pecans with this, the 2016 vintage in particular, has such a bright vanilla.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say that.
There's a vanilla and a cherry note.
Right. It kind of reminds me almost of walnut. Vanilla. All right.
And you know what's fun is our 2009 Cabernet Franc was our very first Cab Franc was very much like this vintage, with that bright vanilla, that there's a cherry, there's a cocoa powder. And I was doing a wine dinner with a chef up in Colorado, just outside of Vail. And we were smelling this, and we're going through all those different aromas. And he said, it's too bad we've got this in the middle of dinner. This would go amazing with Black Forest cake. And what he wound up doing, we went back in his kitchen and started goofing around, and he did a braised veal cheek and then a braised veal cheek with some of this as the braising liquid, served it on a vanilla potato foam, and then did a cherry glaze on top of it and dusted it with cocoa powder, served with this wine. And he called it his savory Black Forest cake.
Wow, this is... Now these wines, am I right to say this seems like a heavier texture or no than the Sauvignon Blanc?
Oh, absolutely. And, this is a state fruit now. So my dad and I grew this on our property, 2,000 feet above the town of St. Helena. And mountain fruit is more tannic, more structure than your typical wine.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it back here. Hopefully we're good now. Okay, what's happening on my end?
You're bugging over there? Okay. Well, is it me too or just you?
I think it's when I speak, I'm getting I love technology. Let me try resetting a few things.
Does my sound like that? Is my sound like that also?
No, your sound is fine on my end.
It's not?
You are good.
I'm good. All right, I'll play something then.
Thank you.
You work that out. Yeah. You can cut out if you need to and come back. I got you covered. I got to watch the wine. That's the thing about the trombone. You got to make sure you got some slide room. Uh-huh. All right. There we go. We got that together.
Nice. Yeah, I switched to a different microphone. I think I'm still glitching.
Still didn't save you, huh? Okay. Can you log out and log back in? That might help. I'm just saying. What do you think?
Can you understand me at all, or is it just glitchy?
Okay, well, I'm here. I can play some more, I guess. All right, here's a good old good one. All right, y'all. We're going to play the second line. I'm going to play the trumpet.
Well, can you bring your laptop and log in as that?
Can't understand anything you're saying, but so I'm going to play the trumpet call. Ba-da-ba-da. Everybody at home, y'all got to say, hey, but with enthusiasm and vigor. Ba-da-ba-da. Hey, yeah, get your handkerchiefs ready. That's what I'm talking about. All right, here we go with the second line. Hey! Hey!
All right, awesome. Is this better?
All right, you still didn't get it together. Okay, well.
Yay, okay, I quickly switched to my phone.
Say it again.
I switched to my phone.
Okay.
So, hey, thank you for playing. Thank you for playing today.
Is that you, or is that somebody said could be feedback from another nearby device that is on Zoom? Okay, you think?
But
We have to
for any of your fans who want to try our wine, we have a coupon code available for the next 24 hours. Can you guys understand me? I'm still getting echo.
I can't hear what you're saying, but okay. It's not like you said blah 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 blah. All right, what we got? Any questions? Anybody? Anything? Y'all got? Turn off the other Zoom. Somebody else says that. We got a couple of people saying that. Turn off the other Zoom. Okay, we'll see what happens. Hopefully Andy's gonna come back in with us. Man, this is some really good wine, y'all. Hope y'all are having a good time with it. And I'm digging on it, especially this Sauvignon Blanc. I'm not really a white wine drinker per se. I generally prefer the reds, but this one here might change my mind. That Sauvignon Blanc is really. Cabernet Franc is nice also. Works well with the pecans, but I'm digging it, man. Andy, that's it. But it's almost that time. Technical difficulties.
I know, am I better?
The big sign they used to have in the old days. Technical difficulties.
There's only one device.
Schweiger, okay, so Schweiger Chardonnay 2017 is the one to get up. Oh, man. Mine is acting up too, huh? Okay. Yeah, Schweiger Chardonnay 2017. All right, yeah. Okay, somebody said, yeah, it's played a lot around Mardi Gras and after funerals. Yeah, that's true. The second line, we played that, and when the Saints scored a touchdown, we played it. But yeah, we played the second line. We don't actually play the Saints until the game is over. But if the Saints score a touchdown, we're going into the what a great song, huh? One of the great songs ever written. It's a blues, just like Sesame Street. I think that might be a little bit happier blues than Sesame Street. They both happy blueses. But that one, second line, that's just a party there. That's just when people come to New Orleans to hear that. All right, y'all, I think that's about it, huh? Well, okay. Andy's writing a sign for us.
Sorry about that, everyone.
10% off and $10 flat shipping on 6 or more bottles. Hey, that's a good deal. All right. I'm making my order. That's it, man. This is killing. All right, Brother Hildreth, y'all are in Mandeville. Yes, indeed. Right up the road. Got a stone shop. Actually, I need to, what's this guy's name? John Stone or something? He's got like some stones I need to get. The code is trombone. Okay, that's a good deal. Yes, indeed. All right. Yeah, I appreciate that, y'all. Appreciate everybody for checking in. All right, Andy, I'm gonna go ahead on and sign us out. Thank you for tuning in. All right, y'all, take it easy. That's it. Catch y'all later. All right, bro.